So you graduate the United States Air Force Academy and you don't become a pilot.
That's right. I'm colorblind, and so I showed up to the Air Force Academy, again, Providence. There have been seasons in the Academy's existence that sort of rise and fall on the number of people they need to go to pilot training. And so there have been seasons where if you weren't pilot qualified to go, you couldn't go to the Academy. And so I happened to be in one of those seasons where they allowed about 25% of us to go to the Academy. And so, I mean, again, I didn't know anything about it. You know, I mean, the first time I got on an airplane was to take a trip to go out to the Air Force Academy to visit the campus. It was the end of April, and on the 1st of May, I called my mother. I was there with a payphone and called my mother and said, you know, Mom, today apparently is National Notification Day, and I have to tell the other 2 colleges that I've been accepted to that I'm not coming there, and I have to tell the Air Force Academy that I'm coming here. And when I visited the Air Force Academy for a visit, it was after Hell Week at the Air Force Academy. It was after all the yelling and screaming and all of that was done, and I walked around going, man, this place is pretty nice. Food's good, good scenery. It wasn't in the middle of winter. It was the end of April, first part of May. I mean, this is pretty nice, and you get to go for free. All right, sign me up. I'm in. Now, of course, when I showed up 60 days later, it was a whole different story. And maybe if I had known what it was going to be like, I may have made a different choice. But yeah, so that's kind of how it happened. I wasn't a pilot because I'm colorblind. So when you get there, even if you had no interest in flying like I did, I didn't care. Everybody else does. Every single person I knew at the academy, they wanted to be a pilot. And so after a while, I was like, well, maybe I should want to be a pilot, But I was never able to because of my color vision. And again, perhaps that was Providence, because I probably would have been a pilot, not because I loved it, but because that's what everybody else was doing, and you really couldn't say no. If your commander said, "What do you mean you're not going to be a pilot?" I had a good excuse.
Okay, so you become a scientific analyst.
I did, yeah. I was an operations research major. The military back in World War II invented operations research, which we know today as industrial engineering. So I was an industrial engineer. As I tell our students here at Charleston Southern, I was one of those who, again, we didn't talk about college in my household. Had no idea what I wanted to major in, and so I show up. My advisor, the week before spring break, in my sophomore year, my advisor calls me in, and she says to me, "Cadet Costin, you haven't declared a major." I said, "Yes, ma'am, I'm aware of that. I appreciate you pointing it out. But I have narrowed it down a little bit, from 30-something to 2. And she says, "That is fascinating, Cadet. But I'll tell you this, if you don't declare a major by Friday, you can't go home for spring break." So I did what every wise person would do. I made my decision that set the pace for the rest of my trajectory for the rest of my life. I based my decision on this simple question: which major will allow me to write the fewest numbers of papers in the next 2 years? And so I wound up as an industrial engineer for that reason. I was forced to declare something, and that's what I picked. But of course, that decision then determined my first assignment. It determined the first Sunday school class where I met my wife. Everything else sort of comes from that one decision to write fewer papers.
So, speaking of your wife, Vicki, did you meet her during the academy time or at your first assignment, or?
First assignment, she'd been off to college and was back teaching school, and again, in God's providence, when I went to join Wright Baptist Church, and so I met Miss Wright at Wright Baptist Church. You know that had to happen. When I showed up, her dad was my deacon. He was the one that sort of took me through the church membership plan, and he invited me over to lunch. His wife could cook, and Vicki still lived there, and we met in Sunday school, and I wasn't a choir guy, but I noticed that she was a vocalist, and she was singing in the choir, doing what we used to call special music, And so I joined the choir because I wanted to get to know her a little better.
So it wasn't the voice of God telling you join the choir.
It was the voice of Vicky.
Gotcha.
It was the voice of Vicky.
And Victory, how many years later? So?
Yeah, almost 34.
Wow.
So June 3rd will be 34 years. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.